One of the things I usually use to explain to a mainstream gamer what Web3 can offer to blockchain gaming is ownership. And it's still in the early stages. Everyone's just waiting to see how it actually happens. For me personally, the idea of composability is the same way that we saw in DeFi, where you can basically build on top of NFTs, or you can take NFTs from other games and incorporate it in your game to bootstrap sort of an ecosystem there, or just build games on top of games, and the interconnection between everything that is possible because of the way that blockchain works. That's something that I'm really excited to see, and I hope we start to see like more of it coming soon.
Because all of the smart chain logic lives in a decentralized place, much of which on public blockchains, you can iterate on what other people have been able to produce extremely rapidly. And we've seen that with the many flavors of decentralized exchanges. We've seen it with the many flavors of decentralized games. And I think that it rapidly impacts the creation and iteration of ideas in a way that we haven't seen since really dawn of open source. It's basically like open source plus, because you can take it and run with it. So I think that's another huge element, and one of the reasons why we've seen such rapid growth in this space, due to all of the very rapid prototyping and extensions of all of the existing GameFi applications. There's a big need and also a big opportunity for us as a project that's been around for quite a while, at least with respect to blockchain, in which 2 years is the equivalent of 20 years. We still struggle with the proper even development tooling and the things that you come to expect in regular software development or game development just don't exist in blockchain. And so it takes much longer and it's much more expensive to make things that are far simpler or far less developed than in traditional gaming. So I think as we start to see those gaps be filled, we'll also start to see a lot more competition with the traditional gaming field as well.
Yeah, I think as Philip was saying, from the production side, it's also hard to hire developers, right? These great game developers, but then you have to onboard them into Solidity and blockchain, or you take these people who are skilled in Solidity and JavaScript, and then you're like, hey, also throw in some Phase or throw in some other game development tools, right? You really need a full stack to do this. From the gamer side, I think there's still so many obstacles to. And we need better onboarding systems. We need a better profile system. All these things that people take for granted elsewhere, right? You have a common console that people are using. Most of these things are on PC. Still, there needs to be like and I don't want to say central hubs, but we need at least standards across games to help you onboard to one game. It should be easy to onboard to another one, and so on and so forth. So looking forward to some advancements there, whether it's just simply socially with regards to adoption or some of these technology pieces to just make this integration easier across all games, all ecosystems.
Absolutely. I don't know if people are familiar with Steam, but I imagine they are. But yeah, things like this where it allows for easy access to find new games, download new games, create profiles. I know there are products working on in this space, but we're still waiting for a few standardized solutions to come out and to create like a fractured ecosystem. The end user not even realizing that they're interacting with blockchain. I think that's the key to expanding Web3 gaming space and getting the next 10x, 100x users on board, is to really abstract the blockchain aspects away through better tooling in order to create a more seamless game experience. At least when I play blockchain games, that you're asked to make transactions in MetaMask, that's not that is an issue or anything like that, but it pulls you away from the experience from a moment. It doesn't allow you to really have the suspension of reality or any of those other things that we find from traditional gaming. So Sapphire is the first confidential EVM, and the reason I'm bringing it up today is because part of what is possible on Sapphire is the ability to hide or have confidential NFTs, which essentially have hidden metadata or stats that only the user can see, or only a permissioned group of people can have access to. So maybe someone in combat can see the stats while they're in combat or something like that. I was wondering if you guys could speak to this idea of confidentiality in gaming and why it might be important to your protocols.
Yeah, I can take this for Samurai Legends. So the very turn-based player versus player, my team versus your team. That experience is handled off chain, right? And part of that's because we want real time. I'm able to click through it real time. If we were waiting for transactions to pass, we might be playing that little instance forever. But also part of that is confidentiality, right? I can't let the player know what decision I'm going to make before I do it. In terms of integration with Sapphire, two large game aspects that we're looking at doing, like Yannick said, we want everybody on the same game server, right? We want everyone's position on the world map to be somehow recorded on the blockchain. And so one of the things we want to use Sapphire for is to create a sort of fog of war aspect. Instead of being able to say, I can see that Yannick's army is over there, so I'm going to go a different route. I won't be able to see anyone until I'm within so many squares of them. I'm within a certain range, and then I get access to who's around me. So I think having, especially since we're a strategy game, having this several layers of confidentiality really add to the strategy. We need certain things to be unpredictable like that, or to be secret or strategic in that way. I might then scouts forward to scout ahead, and they might get beaten up, but at least I know my main army isn't going to run into that. So fog of war is a big aspect. And then also in our grand strategy, there's a lot of political gameplay. And so we have clans. And so we want all clan activity to be done in Sapphire on a privacy chain, so that you don't know what they're voting on, how they're voting, what decisions they're making, so that only when you see them in game taking over your province, then you know that that's what they decided. But we want things like that to happen privately. And like you said, permission data, right? So in the clan knows who's in there. Everyone knows what the vote is. Maybe some votes are private, so you only see the result, but the ability for them to work secretly for only when they finally put their plans into action, then it's made public.
Yeah, so I guess you would call it confidential gaming logic. And as you guys said, right now, it hasn't really been possible in the blockchain space until Sapphire. And so we're really excited about the areas that this can expand gaming in both user experience and sophistication. Before we move to the confidential gaming logic topic, I'd like to just expand a bit on the idea of confidential NFTs, which I guess is a subset of confidential gaming logic. But what I think is like one of the really cool aspects is hiding the stats or the data associated with an NFT. So for example, something that comes to mind with Samurai Legends or any sort of battling type game is the idea of hiding the power of an enemy's army or something of that nature by hiding the stats of their NFTs. So you can't really know if you're going to win a battle or not beforehand. I think we talked about this in the fog of war aspect of like where units are placed, but I think you can go even further than that by hiding the stats of an NFT. Or maybe creating like a power, like they're level 5, but you don't know where their strengths are on level 5, especially in games where there are strategies and counter strategies and stuff like that. I think it's important to have the ability to hide necessarily what their weaknesses are and what their strengths are.
From both the game side and the platform side, there's always been these limitations in what we can do because everything is readable and open. And it would be great to have some aspects, such as the lottery, where users can have assurance that the smart contract that's deployed is handling the lottery in a fair way. But then additionally, when you even take it back a step further, we're already on 8 different chains and we're planning on going onto more chains, but we can essentially offload all of the privacy-focused features directly to Sapphire for all of the chains, and then offer as a platform this entire privacy-focused set of tools for all of the game projects that end up integrating our tool set. And so I think looking at it from the perspective too of this isn't just for projects that are integrating on Sapphire itself. You can even look at it from our ecosystem and all the other ecosystems and protocols that are going to integrate. You can think of it like them having an entirely separate feature set that's enabled by the privacy layer, and that this can be integrated cross-chain across many protocols all over the blockchain ecosystem. So that's the really cool, bigger picture that comes to mind for me.
The Oasis privacy layer is essentially a way to use Sapphire to offload confidential computation. by using cross-chain messaging as well as relays to create seamless user experience. So the basic idea is that games don't have to deploy the entire game natively to Sapphire. A lot of projects exist on many chains or one chain where they already have a very large user base, they already have network effects, they have liquidity for all their items and that sort of thing. And so migrating to new chains does not necessarily expand the opportunity or the user base of the game, but what is beneficial is the ability to essentially send messages to Sapphire, do the confidential computation on Sapphire, and then send the message back that allows them to have settlement or a verified result from the computation that was done on Sapphire. So something that this could look like is a battle in a game or a quest where once it is complete, if you were the winner of the battle, or if you have successfully completed the quest, a message gets sent back to Polygon or Binance Smart Chain or something along those lines, where you can claim your NFT reward or some on-chain reward where the user doesn't even know that they've left their origin chain while they were doing this part of the game that required confidentiality. I wanted to get your opinion on the Oasis privacy layer, how it might be beneficial for your games.
The clan mechanic we are building needs a privacy layer. So a clan is a DAO and voting takes place, and voting means that certain decisions are automatically implemented, and this privacy layer is a sheer necessity, especially if you want everything on chain. Further, looking at, for instance, the fog of war element, there are many things that are difficult when building a blockchain game. You have to try to engineer it in a more challenging way than you would if you were to make a mainstream game. You need that privacy layer in order to keep confidential where other players are. So it is a necessity and also enables us to build something with relative ease.
When you take things off chain, you lose what makes a Web3 game a Web3 game, which is the decentralized, trustless nature of everything. And for games like card games, as well as probably anything that involves battling or quests or riddles of that kind, there's been this trade-off where they lose to decentralization in order to enable privacy. And the Oasis privacy layer allows this trade-off to no longer have to be made. Products can now both have a high integrity, trustless nature of the blockchain while keeping things private, which is a large step forward for the future of Web3 gaming.
I think it's great that there isn't this need to have everything residing in this privacy layer, to instead allow a lot of the benefits of having various aspects of blockchain be open. One of the really cool things that we've experienced in CryptoBlades is we've had so many tools written and developed by our community members of varying levels of skill, and everybody can basically just get started by pulling some data, creating different tools for people to have a better experience within our ecosystem. I bring it up a lot, but a great example of this in Web 2 is Roblox, where even my son, who's 9, has created his own Roblox game simply by modifying templates, which we all can make the connection there. It's very similar to smart contracts, right? Where you can pull a smart contract and make some modifications and put it back out there. The benefit of the open data and the open development, and like with most things, you want some things to be public, but not everything to be public, right? I want the siding on my house to be public, but I don't necessarily want my bathroom to be public, right? So we see this in so many different areas of our lives, and the same can definitely be said for blockchain. And to elaborate a little bit on what I was thinking with our tool set that we're making available is people want to know that our bridging or that our NFT marketplace, they want to see the logic there and they want to be able to verify that. But then in other cases where the users don't want either their information to be shared or we don't want certain information to be shared to everybody, those are the things that really it's a matter of a consensus among the end users. Are they okay with this information being private? And so it does bring up some new problems as far as what we make private and what we keep away from users. But that being said, I think it's going to open up a whole new world for gaming in general, because now this is finally available through Sapphire.
These are good problems to have, right? They're problems of choice. The more tooling, the more ways things can be done, better and the faster Web3 will grow. It allows for more tailored user experiences. Developers can choose what trade-offs they want to make, or the users can voice what trade-offs they would like to be made.
for their specific game, as well as the sophistication of games. Zero knowledge proofs are a way to verify information without necessarily disclosing where the information is verifiable from. And so it's great for things like scaling, as well as potentially creating anonymous transactions and things of that nature. Whereas Oasis uses a different approach based on trusted hardware and achieves confidential computation somewhat differently. And the major advantage is essentially generalized smart contract computation. So everything that we've talked about so far, things like battling and real-time strategy and things of that nature, where data has to be confidential while being aggregated, is really what I think Oasis brings to the confidential computation space. When aggregating a lot of private data or a lot of private information, zero knowledge rollups can get expensive or even like prohibitive on the tech side. Whereas on Oasis, on Sapphire, not only is it possible, but it requires no change in development for facility developers. It's the same as building that same aspect on a 100% transparent blockchain.